Okay, I want to take about the next 20 minutes for just completely open, unstructured discussion of task force members. What over the past 6 meetings strikes you as at the core of the mission of this task force, which are recommendations that we will, over the next 3 meetings, coalesce and make back to Neil, and some thoughts to spur that. Are the things we've heard from operators consistent with the presentations that you've heard at a series of meetings from management? I.e., are there two views, or is there one view that is coalescing? Related to that, what is the sense of teamwork in TriMet? And that goes from everything from scheduling to dispatchers to operators to supervisors. Does Line 17 operate as a team, or is Shirley, if she's out on Line 77, all by herself? Spurred in part by Ken's presentation tonight, there's no question about the amount of data that we probably collect and the ways in which we use it, particularly for scheduling. But are we keeping track of the data which is important and not getting paralyzed by data which is not of great value to the organization and for which maybe the resources are not there to effectively mine? And Rob, you've been on that. Neil, let me ask you first, put upon operators either overtly or subtly, they create a climate. Everybody talks to me about safety, but that's not really exactly what they mean. What they mean is they want me on schedule, and schedule is, and it may not be limited to schedule, but where I go with the pressure question is, in my experience, I've never seen people react under pressure to superb performance. I see those as in conflict. You can set high expectation, and I think that is very different than pressure. It is high expectation. So views a little bit, is the current climate at TriMet one of high expectation, or is it one of great pressure? So open discussion. Jan.
Well, I have a couple things. I think there was a difference hearing from the operators regarding the yellow card and what we've heard on getting back to the operators. And I think that's something we have to look at. Another thing, being part of the disability committee community, I really feel that schedules do play an important role, and it's sometimes they do jeopardize safety. And one of the ways that I have seen this many times, and I write the fixer, is regarding if they have to assist a mobility device. Sometimes you can, and I know it varies with drivers, but you can always hear, we need to get going, we need to get going, hurry, hurry, hurry. And the other is when there are people standing and then the buses start up really fast. If they're behind schedule or even pretty much on schedule, sometimes drivers will just push on the accelerator and not wait till even, people that show that they don't have good balance issues can't get a seat or something. And that's a big issue. And I notice that a lot when drivers are down on their schedules. I think schedules are important to the drivers because, again, it's good customer service. But I think the schedule and the safety issues, I think we really do have to look at that. I think there's a correlation between that.
I'm kind of feeling that I still need data, and that's just something that I'm, like, in diving in, I want to, maybe that's part of, I don't really think of myself as a big policy wonk, but I want to dive in and kind of say, how much is distracted driving? How much is caused by weather? How much is caused by whatever? And I don't know how much, if we're as a committee making recommendations that are more up here in terms of higher level recommendations, or are there specifics? And so that's one thing that just kind of just feel like I don't know, other than saying what you just said, I can do right now because I don't have enough information to go anywhere else. You know, there was some
Very
specific
important.
conversation that we had last time about, I think, that I can offer in terms of specific recommendation around training, around pedestrian behavior, bicycle behavior, that I think we can take some steps on because of my own knowledge base. But right now, I'm hoping that to take that next step, that maybe we need more data, or we need to stay up here and look at it from big picture and then let our staff go into that detail. I don't know.
We'll see during the next couple of sessions of the task force what the answer to that is.
Okay.
But I think you've hit on the crucial point, which is it is clearly important long-term for Neil and his team to address that, whether we have specific recommendations for them or a clear set of overarching guidance. Look, there's more you can do with data. It may be more detail on less data.
To hit on Rob's point, I think there is a lot of opportunity to utilize the data that's there to rally folks around, the value and the mission around safety. And so, from my perspective, it feels a lot more like a communication exercise and a way of taking the data that's there and getting folks focused on the objective around safety. And if it's 0 incidents, that's the objective. How do you get people focused on that? In private industry, that's what we do all the time. Here are our targets, here are our goals. Let's communicate broadly on what we're trying to achieve, and let's have a discussion on how we're going to get there. So it seems like there's a lot of opportunity in maybe not getting this group getting so specific into the data itself, but how do we set a framework for that data to be used a little bit more effectively throughout the agency. So.
I'd like to make a few general comments. I mean, one of the things that I'm looking for is, in terms of quality of service, is that, and I believe that safety is a quality of service issue, is do you have systems in place that allow you to improve that quality of service over time? And so that tracking the performance, knowing what your performance measures are, I think that's really important. I think it sounds to me like you can do more with safety performance data. Mm-hmm. You've got data, but I think few people probably are actually mining that for information. And so it can be both a dashboard level, like here's 3 quick indicators that every manager needs to know about our safety performance, as well as detailed network screening like Rob's talking about is, why is it that this percentage of our crashes are happening during snow and ice events? Do we have everything in place that responds to that kind of environmental circumstance or whatever? And then I think that some of the systems that have been brought up that people have talked about, and the yellow card, for example, being one of those, need to sort of move from being reactive systems where we got a concern or a complaint, we'll log it, somebody will investigate, to creating information that you can use in a more proactive way. So that we've had, now we know that we've had 5 drivers, on that same line complain about that same circumstance. Are you using the systems in that way to flag problems and be able to improve the system's operation? And so I don't, like for instance with the yellow card thing, I don't know how much data is created in that and how much capability there is there, but that would be one area to maybe, I would suggest, look at that. Is that something where you can improve that, and also as a part of that, improve that communication loop that you're talking about? So a driver might have the opportunity to log on to the system and say, I've got 4 yellow cards in the system. I see that 3 are active right now. 1's been resolved, and here's what the answer was. And that driver may get a lot more satisfaction and feel more invested in the system if they are able to get that kind of feedback and know that someone's actually, taking this information, processing it, and validating their concerns. Those are my comments.
Very, very important stuff. we're not just following an order, but I think we've gotten to Deb.
Apparently, we're following an order now. Well, I've been ruminating, you had mentioned our management and staff align, then also is there a teamwork? And the teamwork question is interesting. I think one of our earlier meetings with the K&J report, there was talk about training and the safety departments being separate and how that's kind of unusual. It's working for TriMet. I wonder if it's going to continue working over time, if there's some sort of succession plan to continue to make that work as personnel changes, or if there's just a structural trouble there. And it seems like in little bits and pieces, the various departments that are important here are operating together, but it doesn't seem as a whole, the whole system has safety and training and operations and all these people working consistently together. I think there's experiences they're having where they're working together, but it doesn't seem to be really following that value. And I think there's a few things along those lines that we heard from the operators when we met at in the bullpen a few weeks back that make you think. I wouldn't necessarily say that management and staff aren't aligned, but I think it might just be a breakdown of communication internally. I heard staff are feeling the pressure, operators are feeling the pressure of scheduling, and they're uncertain about the yellow cards and uncertain how changes are made. And so it might be more a matter of communication than not being aligned, lack thereof.